So today is day 26 of my highly focused 90-day strategic self care. And the focus today has been on my physical self care and my economic self care. Physical self care, because I am a woman who's diagnosed with uterine fibroids in 2008. And most recently, unbeknownst to me until I read my post op notes this year, stage one endometriosis, even though now when I think back to my cycle symptoms, I've been dealing with stage one endometriosis since 2007, but did not get a proper diagnosis from a doctor. I just found out about the diagnosis when I was reading my post op notes July 25th of this year, 24th, 25th of this year. So, that speaks to the fact that doctors ain't shit. Conventional doctors ain't shit. You got to really find a conventional doctor that speaks your language if you're going to be going to doctors for tests. But that's a whole nother live and video. I'm not going to talk about her right now. Pelvic floor therapy. My sister put me on to pelvic floor therapy during the pandemic. Now, what is so Yoho? And Yoho means mystical. I'm a Nichiren Buddhist. I chant Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. And so, what is so mystical about my sister sharing pelvic floor therapy with me, or sharing the doctor that she found on Instagram with me during COVID, was I was actually training to become a liquid motion instructor. And liquid motion is a pelvic based movement. It is a sensual floor work methodology that is initiated. Every move is initiated from the pelvis. And when my sister sent me the actual page from Instagram, I had no idea that the work that I was already doing with liquid motion would benefit me and my situation with fibroids and endometriosis. One of the moves that I did with liquid motion was called a wide hip pitch. And it was one that I had to master before I could go on to become a instructor. Well, after I mastered that movement, there was a release. It was like the movement unlocked something that was stuck inside of me, and there was a release. And so when I finished the movement, I started crying, but it was like a cleansing cry. It wasn't like a boo-hoo grief cry, sad cry. It was a release. Like, oh, that's finally left my body. And so today, when I went to go see my pelvic floor therapist, who happens to be a Black woman, who also believes in yoni steaming, she told me to keep yoni steaming. And she also told me to keep doing liquid motion. But today was the day that she did the actual exam inside of my vagina. My first visit with her, she discovered that I had diastasis recti from my surgery. And I believe I know why that happened, because once I came from up under the anesthesia, I was violently ill for days. I couldn't keep anything down. I kept throwing up. And that's because my relationship with pharmaceutical medicine is I don't have one. I don't take pharmaceutical meds. And when I do take pharmaceutical meds, most of the time I get sick, except for ibuprofen. So anyway, um, the anesthesia wore me the fuck out, and that pain pump. All that shit was in my system, and my body was like, no, we got to get this shit up out of here. And I believe all of that puking and vomiting um, basically did not help me heal correctly, because I have an incisional hernia, and I also have diastasis recti, which is what I'm working with the pelvic floor therapist on. That's one of the things I'm working with her for. But another Black doctor sent me to her because I'm dealing with stage one endometriosis. And so, anyway, when she was doing the actual um, pelvic floor therapy on me today, she told me that most of the time, the first exercise she did on me, most women cannot hold that exercise for more than 5 seconds. I held it for 10. So my pelvic floor is strong, but it's tight. And a tight pelvic floor is is what happens when the stress and the trauma ends up in that area. She told me, she said, "You've been carrying a lot." And so, during the exercises, I did feel some relief. I feel some relief right now. She told me after the exercises, when I get home, I may feel some emotions, but and I may feel like I need to process those emotions. But yeah, the pelvic floor is a very, very important part of focus when we are dealing with womb issues and wanting to have a healthy vagina, healthy vulva, healthy womb. That is a very important area in the pelvis. And I'm so grateful that I was already attracted and aligned to the movement that I needed to heal myself. The body will always tell us what we need. We just got to freaking listen. We just got to freaking listen. And she also explained why this has been happening. I've been running into so many women who I know personally. I was the first person to speak out and say I have fibroids in public. And, a lot of us carry shame and secrecy and all these things, and then we end up sabotaging ourselves because we're not asking for help. But she was telling me that when you start living with pain and coping with pain, you do your best to try and forget it. So when you start to acknowledge it, it's hard to acknowledge it because you've tried to forget it for so long. So anyway, sharing that, sharing that information. But yeah, I am so enjoying pelvic floor therapy. And yeah, stay tuned.